We are going live and
JavaScript has a problem. Okay, well, it has many problems. But today, we're only focusing on one of them. Like many consequential tools, JavaScript can confer immediate and enduring benefits, great suffering, and woe. It offers automatic variables and dynamic typing, and in the hands of an expert, it's something to behold. But it's also a weakly typed language, meaning your data could change under you without you intending to. And in the hands of a lesser mortal, well, it happens more than you think. Our own Jan Küster covered this topic in an article he wrote titled, How to Mess Up Your JavaScript Code Like a Boss, which is why we're focusing on type safety in this episode and wondering why the TC39, that's the ECMAScript committee responsible for the language, isn't taking up enforcing strict types in JavaScript. We're covering 3 related items and spending time talking about them. If you're with us, you can share your thoughts in the live chat. On the program with us today is Gabriel Gruba. He joins us on a roundtable discussion on handling return types. We wrap up with CFP's conferences and final hot takes, so you'll want to watch until the end. And don't forget to mark your calendars for next week for our data episode. Data's the new oil, you know. So stick around. We're starting the next 6 months with episode 27, and you're watching or listening to This Week in MeteorJS, a weekly news segment of the MeteorJS Dispatches podcast. It is aimed at both new and veteran MeteorJS users. Our program is brought to you by MeteorJS community ambassadors who share with you information, events, activities, and other newsworthy items. I'm your host, Alim Gafar, streaming to you from the outer boroughs of New York City.
Hello, everybody. I am Jan Dvorak, streaming to you from Prague.
Hey, Jan Küster here from Germany. Hi.
Hello there. Here's Gabriel from Brazil.
Right. And maybe I immediately start the whole conversation a little bit. So this whole TypeScript thing, this whole type safety thing was actually a summary from my experience with lots of projects I had, and all the time I went into some of these quirks, these JavaScript quirks, and everybody of you knows these JavaScript quirks, right? These things like, why is not a number actually a number? What? And even TypeScript can prevent you from that. So if you have TypeScript and you put a number in, not a number in, it still says a number. So I wrote this article, and the interesting thing is, back then there was already type safety in an ECMAScript. It was called ActionScript, and I know ActionScript and it's Flash and all that and stuff, but there was already something with type safety enforcement, and I was trying to summarize that everything I found, or most of the stuff I found, into this article, and basically TypeScript emerged in during the same time, and I think for me it was always the time that it should be part of the core, and I still don't know why it's not in the core. We will cover up that later. And but so before we go into this whole discussion on these things, I would like to go into what actually covers in what's covered in Meteor for type safety. We don't have real type safety there, right? Unless we use TypeScript, but we still have options to enforce something similar, and that's called validation. And there are actually a few validation libraries that you can use in Meteor today. And for example, to define a schema and use that schema to validate your data. And one of the most, historically famous ones is a simple schema, because it's also built in collection 2. So it has a very widespread usage still in Meteor, although I know it's maybe not the most used anymore, which is totally okay. And it's still under development. I'm currently developing it actively. There are updates on schema deny and schema index, so which are important supplementary libraries on simple schema. And there is one thing I have to tell you. I wrote with Harry Adele, who may be watching today as well. And Harry and I may team up together to finish simple schema towards a Meteor 3 compatible version. And that's one thing. But if you don't know, there's also Jam Schema. So that's a schema library in Meteor that you can use with your own schema library. So you're not 100% coupled to simple schema, but you could also use JSON schema. And it would also work with check, I think. And the whole idea is there to be a little bit more independent from simple schema, because some people might have realized this in the past that simple schema is very tight coupled, or experienced some tight coupling with this library. And yeah, but we will go deeper into that. There's one more thing, and that's you could also enforce schemas on a whole different level, like on your data layer. And this is what GraphQL basically does. And the latest news on GraphQL are actually that the skeletons for Meteor 3 have been merged, but there is still some work needed. So GraphQL skeletons for Meteor 3 are close to be finished. Jan, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. There is still some, the packages themselves don't need to be upgraded. We have, for Apollo, we have ready, we have, you can actually, the Slido GraphQL package, which dependency you could fix manually yourself. We have, I do believe, a pull request against the main package. So we shall see how that is going to work. And now it's just, little things here and there that we are fixing up as we are moving towards new Meteor 3.
I think it's still also awaiting a direct integration for Meteor 3, the GraphQL package, right? The Apollo package.
Yes,
so
the Apollo package is the one. So Meteor/Apollo, if you are looking at on GitHub, so that's the package, or just Apollo package on Atmosphere. And we do have here the Meteor 3 compatibility pull request courtesy from myself. So that's just waiting and ready to merge whenever you are ready, Gabriel.
Sure. When you say it's ready, I go there and merge it, and we release a new version. And normally we work like this. So for those that are in the audience as well, if you have any package that I wanted to, it's in the core and needs to be released, and I did a pull request on it, tell me, ping me on Slack, ping on Twitter, ping me on GitHub. I will check eventually. If it takes some time, ping me like on Slack and Twitter, that it's faster to get the answer back. So yeah.
We'll have to figure out some details as we publish for the beta and all that stuff.
So here's the thing now. I know that lots of people already transitioned away from, for example, simple schema. And the question is also if these libraries are even still required if you will move to something like TypeScript. So I don't know, what's your take on these libraries? For example, do you still use them somewhere, or did you drop them at all already?
Yeah, I kind of want to go first on this. I still use simple schema, but I have to kind of highlight here that MongoDB itself, if you use Atlas, has also schema. And It has also the option to generate it for you from sampling your documents. And then that enforces that schema directly on the database. So that would be probably something I would like to see, probably interconnection between these MongoDB schema and simple schema going forward in the future to kind of keep them in sync, especially if you think about connecting other applications to the same database. And that one is based on JSON schema. So it should, I think, be looking at this pretty much very close to simple schema as well. So,
I mean, that's interesting. There's just a comment coming in from Kelly that you still absolutely need a schema, and I totally agree with that. The question was rather targeting how you define your schemas, and for example, I still use simple schema, but for me would be the question, if I, for example, transit to TypeScript, could I easily just drop these libraries, or should I still keep them? What's the benefit? I can give you one benefit of simple schema, and that is it's super extensible. I can easily write an extension on this schema to use the schema to generate my forms, and I can then use this form document to validate with the same schema. So this is for me very efficient, and which is why I'm still sticking with it.
Okay, and we have Lori writing in. What if not enforce schema and migrations at all? Add new database fields on the fly. I'm not quite sure I understand exactly what's being said here. Do you guys?
So I do think this is particular because once you create like a schema, you pretty much lock how the collection looks like. So if you are doing more of a experimentation, you could say, phase and adding the new stuff, then it will slow you down, especially if you don't know how it looks. But for that, I would also say you can use, at least in simple schema, if you have like a field that, for example, in the universe for the stories, we have a content field where we have under which it's its own prose mirror JSON object, and there's no way I can freaking define that in a simple schema, nor is it worth it because it's managed completely by prose mirror. So I just do, there's this property called black box, and if you set it to true, pretty much whatever you put underneath it, simple schema doesn't check it. So that's kind of one way how to opt out of checking on specific fields and stuff like that.
Which then defies the type safety again.
Yes, and so if you have like say more experimental collections and stuff like that, you just don't define a schema there. But I think especially for things that are established and set in stone, there should be schema so that also you know what to expect from a return and work for it. Because then if like every document you get from a collection looks different, then it's unless you have very specific way how to work for it, then it's kind of a bit of a chaos. And that's one of the reasons why we have schema and all the types and stuff like that to make it a bit easier to manage things.
Yeah, so we have quite a conversation going on right now in the chat with regard to the simple schema. Per says that they've been using it a lot, and they're looking for a Zod to simple schemas translation. Kelly is commenting that sounds like it's going to be complicated. And Per has replied again. So
I mean, it sounds to me that simple schema definitely still has its role in the whole Meteor ecosystem and community, and that just gives me more strength to know that I'm working on a package that will definitely be in use in the future and not just being a maintenance zombie. And I mean, that's also, to me, at least, this is some valuable work I'm doing, so that then it will be much more of a fun. And again, as I already said, I will team up with Harry, hopefully, if Harry gets the permission to spend some of his time on that. And then we will work together on simple schema, because actually, and that's the big blocker here right now, the validation on simple schema, it's all synchronous, but at the same time, you have so many computable fields in simple schema, computable properties, sorry, and they are all sync. And if you want to compute anything there related on any value you get from a Meteor collection that is async, especially when it's on the server, it's not going to work out. So we have to make this all async. And I posted this just a few days ago or last week somewhere in the forums that it will not be just an easy monkey patching. It will be a full rewrite of the validation, so that will become full async. Otherwise, it won't be handleable. But it's still, we are working on it. That's the good news, right?
Sounds like it. All right.
All right.
We have another item, right? Another
Yes.
part of the way we overcome JavaScript's limitations in Meteor.
Yes, we have actually 2 more items, but first, Jan, anything to finish here on before we move on to my part?
Yeah, of course. So everyone who's watching right now and still haven't hit the like button, please do, because this is actually also helping us to push the video upwards with the YouTube algorithm, and also shows us which episodes you like, so we know in the future what kind of content we will focus on. And yeah, thank you.
It's really great to see. I'm sorry, I was just about to say, it's really great to see a robust conversation happening in the chat alongside the discussion we're having here. I feel that it means that we are hitting I don't know whether it's a nerve, but certainly we're hitting something that people seem to care about. So that's great. That's great to see.
And coming from here, I would like to transit over to Jan, who is covering also another built-in validation library from Meteor that's even more built in and even in the core, right?
Yes, and the name is check. So this is before TypeScript, before GraphQL, and everything else, where we just had playing JavaScript and kind of needed to check the input that we are getting.
Jan,
coming from it.
Jan, is your segment called Check on Check?
Could say so. And first of all, this is one of the oldest packages, but it's still being developed. We have actually 2 pull requests, one from Harry Adele, adding option to check for non-empty string. So that's like kind of common. You check for string, but if the string is empty, then sometimes you don't want to let that through. So that's a new capability that Harry is looking to add. And then we have because if you have, for example, an error in an array that you are checking, then it only returns, of course, the first error. And here from, let me see if we get the name. So no, so Jamauro user, we have that it will return an array of errors to you back. So that's 2 new things to check. And check is a very simple use case. Whenever you have for publishing or for methods, or you can also use it in anything else that you want to have a check on the type. You say check, then you put in the variable, and then you put in what type it should be, or what kind of object, and then also to that you can use match.maybe and other patterns, objects, including maybe, as I mentioned, optional, one-off, where. So it's very powerful to check on the different things. I'm not sure, but I think there might have been also an option to use maybe simple schema for this. Don't quote me on that. Maybe somebody in the chat is going to know. And one big thing that you should definitely, besides this is a must for every Meteor application, especially if it's production grade application, that you should always add is this second package called audit argument checks, which is going to give you a 500 error if you try to call a method that does not check all of its arguments. So that's very quickly. And I have, let's see here, a quick, let's say, demo of how it works. And I have put it here. You can say I've commented out my check to demonstrate if you try to call, without the check, it will give you an error. And what I'm doing here is, in the next example, I will be calling it with a number instead of strings, so it will then return match failed. And to very quickly go here to the sample on the, let's see, here we go. On the client side, if you use the call async, you just do .catch. And if there's error, you will get back a Meteor error. And for example, here you can just have error.reason to get the specific text, what is wrong. You're also going to get in the log of the server here all the details, exception while invoking the method name, and then the specific error that happened. Good thing is, this what is happening with the check, it throws. So you can also use it in other places, like, for example, in mutation for GraphQL. So you can put in checks there. And here also, what I'm in my schema, I have here for title, of course, it's supposed to be string. But say somehow in this case, it's a mistake. So I'm checking here for a number, so I can show you what happens when you call that. So it will then throw that match error, match failed, and then you can also set it up that it returns all of that. So this one returns through GraphQL errors, and you can see that. So anywhere where you need to check, it doesn't have to be in mutations, methods, or subscriptions. It can be in a function more deeper in your code. If you put in check, and if there's a mistake, or if the check doesn't turn out, it will throw. So just catch that, and you can return that or do whatever you want with that. So that's very quickly check, a must for every Meteor application.
So if you aren't using it yet, you should try using it now.
I mean, Gabriel, you're very familiar with the Meteor code base. So is it still used in the Meteor core and core package a lot?
It is. Like, it has some places. I wouldn't say like a lot, because maybe I've seen it a lot and just like it turns out of your brain, like you see it and you just don't like retains the image in your brain. But I think we use it, but isn't like, I would say like not like a lot, but it's some there is some usage of it, and it makes sense. Like, I think we use it a lot of, like, on internal methods. I think for accounts it's used a lot. It's really used a lot. But for other places, I don't think so, or it's used in some way somewhere, like in the beginning of the stack, just to validate the beginning of the stack, and then it isn't used a lot more later on, because yes, you just validate at the top of the stack. It's a string already, and you know it's a string. And when you go downstream, doesn't need to be checked again.
I was asking because I think it's still it's a little bit like an underdog nowadays, because I think it has some powerful functionality with the match.where, where you can just define a function and then you just do your custom validation using imperative code, or like a procedure you write, and then it just returns, I think, true or false, or it throws an error or something like this. And then every edge case you need to handle, you can easily use that. So at least for me, in some packages, it was very nice to have check there. So don't underestimate this library, I think.
Yeah, and it feels like, I'm not sure if you guys use Zod, but there's like the Zod.custom that works similarly. And yeah, it's really nice to know that even Zod uses this today, but Match probably check has probably this for even longer than Zod, So yeah, it's really nice to know that we have this functionality.
Yes, that's kind of what I'm feeling with a lot of things. Recently, I've read, and we'll cover that probably next week, about some upcoming React features, and a few of them, or let me actually pick it up. One of them was very quickly the use optimistic, a new hook, and it's which is like for optimistic updates. I'm like, we had this 10 years ago, and it's just getting into React. So there is a lot of functions around, and every time I see it, just like say, wow, how Meteor was revolutionary for its time, and still the rest of the ecosystem is in many cases still catching up with Meteor.
Well, it's the once and future platform, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's get while talking about check, let's get into TypeScript, and I think we were getting to this point, and yeah, like I like to talk about TypeScript in our code base. I mean, like in the Meteor core and also for our users. So I guess this is an important topic. And for those that are using Meteor beta, are testing it, it's coming with Meteor 5.3.3. And actually, just yesterday, the TypeScript 5.4 was released to RC. So it's no longer a beta, but it was in beta stages, and now it's in RC. And one of its key features, and I would like to highlight them, is ensuring that types are preserved. There are now types are preserved in closures. So if you get this error, you go like, yeah, I just checked if this type is working, and now I'm in another function inside of that function that I just checked, and now I don't need to check this again. It's really nice. And but for me, the thing that people are going to be liking a lot is the new no infer type, the utility type. And TypeScript having those utility types is really nice because you can create good developer experience for other users, for other developers, especially using utility types. And this no infer one, I can show it later on, or it can be shown there in the blog post. It's like you tell to TypeScript that it shouldn't be trying to. I have the blog post here. Let me send it in the chat as well so that everyone can see it. Here it is, and I'm trying to say it. Yeah, I'm saying it here in our chat. So yeah, exactly. So if you go there, it shows every change that happened since data. And for me, the best one is the no infer utility type that everyone should be like, yeah, that's gonna be used for some use cases. And what it does is it tells TypeScript not to try to infer what's going on, and it just tries to like check if it makes sense or not in that scenario. So if you go to, there is this piece here, the using the no infer utility type, a little bit a little bit downstream. Yeah, this could work. This is correct. But then there's the function just below this one. That's the blue one. Yeah, this happens because both are strings and it accepts almost anything. It's really too abundant. It's like, yeah, whatever, you can put it there, it works. But when you tell no infer, TypeScript goes like, yeah, I should be focusing on making this match. So it's really nice. This is like a feature that I was really into. And there are others like the group by object.group by and map.group by. But those are like more like edge cases that people might come into. But this one, no infer, might come like really handy for users now on. So yeah, keep an eye out. You might use this. You might go like, yeah, I might need this. I'm having this issue and I would like to solve this. And now TypeScript has like a built-in solution for it. So I guess that's mostly from this new release. There's some issues that they solved, like the quick fix for adding missing parameters. If you go like, almost at the end of the blog post, it shows you like this LSP kind of thing. And yeah, I guess we had this question, and it moves on to our next topic as well. Would it possible to check for type safety without converting to TypeScript? And I'm not sure if you guys know other language rather than Flow, I guess. I'm not sure even if Flow did.
I would say it also depends. There was this, I think it's Float or whatever it's called, is discontinued. They just captured it to TypeScript, but it also depends a lot on your IDE. And then you could potentially use JSDocs comments to define things. So let me see if I can quickly find.
Yeah, actually, this is what I'm doing using my IDE, and like in IntelliJ, it's very nice if you use JSDoc a lot. It at least it doesn't enforce type safety, but it immediately hints you if you do something that is different from what you declared in your JSDoc. But again, that requires you to know how to write JSDoc and do everything right. You can mess up things there as well.
Well, like everywhere else. So let me see. Yeah. Let me go here just to give this one. Yes. So here I have for my JSDoc says /2 stars, and then you can use their syntax. Usually, what you want to kind of see the inputs and returns. This is like the most basic. So you find param, the name of it, and then what type it is, and maybe some additional comments. And then if you hover over it somewhere else, it should, let me see if I can go back here. In this case, I have both TypeScript, so TypeScript takes, I think, precedence here, but somewhere else it will give you the necessary hints and all that stuff. And in these days, let's see if I can just, it should, yeah, it will, like, for example, this ID will already prepare for you all the necessary params and all the stuff that you need, and it will also hint you what else to do here. So most important is to add params, then also add the return type, and that will be enough for most IDEs to pick it up for you. Let me see if maybe now. Yeah, you can see now here I have summary, add an audit log entry that has been added here.
Nice.
So that then goes. Maybe if I add here, just to try it out.
It's kind of funny because
here.
You mentioned
you can see the params here.
Yeah, you mentioned the IDE support and so on, and I think that's so important in terms of what ends up being the last man standing, right? Because there've been languages like ActionScript we talked about yesterday or a couple of days ago as having types before. That's a very long time ago. That was during what is that? The Adobe days. What was the app that used ActionScript? Flash.
Flash
right?
and Flex.
Flash, right? And then for a while we had Flow. That was I'm trying to remember where that was out of. Was that out of Facebook or?
Yeah, that was Facebook.
I think Facebook. Even today, React uses Flow. I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, but for some time the history was like they did the types for the types thing with React for like that types thing for React was in other repo because their repo is made in Flow. So I'm not sure how it is today. I'm gonna check now, but yeah,
I do believe actually today they are in TypeScript. I do recall they were having conversion to move to TypeScript. Let's see the GitHub to see if Flow is still developed. Actually, yeah, they have 2 days ago new release.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But what's the difference?
I think what I read was that the level of activity on Flow is it's not what it was. And as a matter of fact, I think that the team, from what I had read, it's really sort of in a maintenance mode right now. But there was another one. I don't know if you guys remember, but Google had a language called Dart several years back, right? Which was also sort of a type safe, superset on, or at least it was a type safe language that transpiled down over to JavaScript. So, we have these others. I mean, Dart was hot, in 2013 or something like this. I forget how long ago that was. But I haven't heard anybody talking about it anymore. But, apparently they're still doing work on Dart. Dart 3.3 is out right now. If you go to dart.dev, you'll see that is, it's still there. But it seems that if you're going to try to do anything type safe with JavaScript, or if you're going to try to have type safe JavaScript, you probably have to go with the big elephant in the room, right? You have to go with TypeScript. I'll be honest with you, I'm not crazy about it, and I've said that before. And I see that Min has said, what's wrong with TypeScript? It's amazing, and I think it elicits this kind of emotion from people. People either really love it, or they have reservations about it. And I don't think that there are many people that that are sort of in the middle of the road on this.
I mean, I think you have to differentiate, for example, a little bit between loving it for what it is as a whole, or like for loving it for certain parts, and the same on the opposite. For example, I think the concept of TypeScript is actually filling the gap that was needed in JavaScript, definitely. But for example, for me, there is a big critic I always had in TypeScript, and that is it introduces way too much object-oriented programming stuff into JavaScript that is usually not designed for, because JavaScript, prototypical inheritance and all that stuff, and then you come with TypeScript, which has some more of these classic OOP features and lots of interfaces, abstract classes, and so on, and not abstract classes, generic types, and so on, which is usually when you come from Java or like blah blah. I always love to say it's name it blah blah. Then you're familiar with these concepts, and I was actually happy that I didn't have to deal with that stuff anymore, and rather implicitly go with things. But again, you need them because that's the only way to get around the quirks of JavaScript in order to achieve your full type safety. So it's a trade-off. That's what I mean here. That it's a trade-off. There is not the everybody is happy solution. That's the whole thing.
Listen. I think one of the things that JavaScript lacks, and I've said it before, I said it in my opener, that I think that the TC39 should be looking at making static checking part of the core of JavaScript. It should be in there as part of the standard for JavaScript. That to me is where it belongs, not in some other meta language that sits on top of it, and then you have to do a transpilation back into JavaScript. The thing that you point out, by the way, that JavaScript has all these quirks, is the thing that bothers me about transpiling from another language into JavaScript, right? Because there is this added complexity that shows up, and you get this kind of cognitive overload with having to deal with another language on top of this language. It's just, I will say that. Let me just go back to the point where when I made a point privately among you guys that one of the things I think that Meteor was and identified as was it was a great platform for people starting out developing applications, because you kind of get that endorphin hit. You can use JavaScript, enough, and you can build something, and you have something that shows for it, right? And maybe it's not the best thing, right? Maybe there's a lot of magic, but the thing is, it helps encourage people that are starting out feel like they're getting someplace. And now we add on top of it the complexity of things like, the preferred front end is React. Pretty complicated, right? And if we're saying now that the language that we're going to work with is going to be, TypeScript, And if you're going to start debugging and you're going to look into the code, even if, yes, you can write plain vanilla JavaScript on top of it and you can get away with that. But if you run into bugs and so on, and then you look at packages or you look at the official code that comes shipped with the platform and it's mostly TypeScript, now you have to like, it's not so approachable anymore is what I'm saying. And I'm not saying it's... Go ahead.
I just want to say, again, this is, I think, still a trade-off thing, because, of course, you have now this disadvantage. Now, things slowed down a lot, and you will not progress that fast anymore. The advantage of it is you will catch a lot of issues before the software even runs. And, I mean, when I'm referring back to Java, when I started software development at university, for me, that was the biggest hit in the face. I started to write stuff, and I couldn't. I spent up to an hour, and I still didn't get the program to run because the compiler just said no, I will not run. And for me, it was awful at that time.
What language was this? This was not JavaScript, right? This was Java, right?
It was Java. No, I just say, Java. But with TypeScript, you will not compile stuff if the compiler says no. And
that's the difference, though. Like JavaScript is so fucking, excuse my language, I shouldn't have said that. It is so forgiving, right? It is so forgiving that you can make a lot of really stupid early mistakes, and you don't realize that you're doing it, and the compiler will just say, I think this is what you meant, and it allows you to get away with it, right? And that is good and that is bad, right? This is what I said about, like, you know, for the people that have the expert, right? It's like, it's magical. I mean, like, what they do is like a symphony. But when you're like starting out and you don't know what you're doing, it's like you accidentally get the result you want, and then more times out of not, you don't get the result that you want, and you get confused by it. And I get what you're saying there. But I also think that there is something to be said about being able to build an application and get some feedback and say, okay, I feel like this, I'm getting some positive feedback. I'll continue on and I will learn as I go. And a lot of people did. And we also know that over time, a lot of people didn't. And they blamed Meteor for a lot of their own mistakes and their own lack of knowledge or their own lack of learning. And I get that too. At the end of the day, though, I just really feel that, you know, I don't want to learn some other company's language that's being managed by some other group, because it's just, I don't know where it's going to go. I would rather that these features belong in the language. And JavaScript has been around now. I will tell you how long ago I used JavaScript when there were different implementations of JavaScript in different browsers. So Netscape has its own implementation. Microsoft Explorer had its own implementation, and you have to write shims in order to try to make it, like, you know, work with each other. And it was horrible. It was horrible. My point, though, is it's been like in the 1990s until now, it's about almost 25 years, right? That JavaScript has been around, probably older than 25 years. That at this point, there really should be static typing, type checking in the language. There is no excuse for it not to be there. That's all I'm saying.
The bureaucracy always takes a long time to get around everything, unless you have somebody big pushing it. And I would say also Microsoft doesn't mind to pretty much have ownership of static, typing and checking in JavaScript. Plus, of course, big opinions about this. Kelly had some good points here, and I kind of want to play off this. He said a good framework will abstract most of the TypeScript out of sight of the developer, and what the developer actually writes will be very close to what they know as JavaScript. It's correct, and that's also why I like the TypeScript approach that Meteor took, which if you just have the official TypeScript package for Meteor, it is not strict, meaning that, even if you don't have all the types correct and, well, not necessarily correct, but, it will not prevent you from starting up the application and burning you. So it's more like a let's say, code hinting, which really helps, me on a large projects where I just cannot, go and do all the types for everything. A lot of the packages don't have types. So if I could not start my Meteor application without having, all green on all the types, then I wouldn't be able to start my large applications. So that way I kind of like it, especially when it comes, to me having types with third-party libraries on that. And I would say my biggest gripe that I have with TypeScript is sometimes the type error reporting, when I just get a crazy description and it doesn't really tell me what is wrong. It somehow is not able to tell me, no, idiot, this should be a string, not a number, or something like that, or it should be one of these. It just gives me freaking wall of text that doesn't really tell me anything, and which is sometimes loop. So in quite a few cases, and I'll maybe try here in the background as we go in to find one, I'm having issues like that, trying to figure out what it is. And that's I would say one of the problems I have, that it just sometimes does not work, or it doesn't give me an easy thing. And this was recognized, I do believe, by the TypeScript developers as well, that they need to work better in this area. So, or maybe I just need to learn more TypeScript. That's another issue potentially.
I think you have John Morrow agreeing with you a little bit here in his own way. Although I think he's going to a larger extent than you were necessarily saying.
Oh yeah, that's like another thing, using the any, just if you don't know, just use any, and that's fine. It's actually, I think if you in the rules, ESLint rules for TypeScript, that's considered an error. So you should not do that, and so that's one way kind of to get around to it, but that doesn't really help us. Oh yeah, actually I found the error, so let me quickly.
Sure.
In the meantime, can you disable any?
I'm not sure if you can disable it, but you can set it as an error or be reported as that, and you can probably set it in the TypeScript setting as well. So this is a common, probably this one is actually one of the better side. That is more readable when it comes to the errors. But for not example, but it says types of prop types are incompatible, and then this gives me just a lot of stuff. This one is in there exactly the one, but something similar you get, and then you just get a wall of text, and it doesn't tell me. It's more in functions. It doesn't tell me which of the inputs is wrong, and it kind of goes like on this recursive. But this one actually is better. So and this might be because maybe it's the newer version of WebStorm that I'm testing, so it might be a little bit better.
I see that Gabrielle is trolling the people in the chat.
No, yeah, I'm not kidding. TypeScript isn't sound, and I can prove it. If you search it up, it's not sound. So you're having just a big linter, and when you're using Zog, you're trying to bring soundness. And for those that do not understand what soundness means, is like when you say you define a variable as string, it doesn't assure you that it's a string. JavaScript by default is not sound. And when Alim says that he wanted like static typings, he meant I think he meant soundness. Like when you see something that's a string, it's supposed to be a string every time you check it, So that's something that we don't have it. And for Jan, I have another like sad news is that TypeScript is actually not an OOP language. It's like more of a OCaml like or functional language because it isn't using nominal typing. It's using structural typing. And for those that don't know what it is, and it's like a lot of like not technical, I would say, but like things that we learned in college. I have this really big TypeScript playground that shows like you can trick TypeScript to accept another class, another struct as another type, and that can lead to problems. But that's also the beauty in TypeScript because I think it's the only main language, like mainstream language, that uses this kind of typing. Because like Rust, Golang, and other C# and Java uses nominal typing. You mean like when I say I need this type, I need exactly this class, exactly this type. And in TypeScript, just it has to like it's like more of a shape, and you need to accept and get in the shape so that it can be accepted. So I'm
Gabriel, I
Yes.
have to just add one thing here. That's just a fun fact that one very famous developer just opened an issue a while ago that and showed that the TypeScript language set is actually Turing complete. So it's
it is.
Language.
It is. And I have like I've done this before. Like I've done a whole calculator using TypeScript and using TypeScript type system. So I later can send to you guys, but it's like literally like a calculator. You can sum, you can do divisions, you can do a lot of sort of things. And I've done like in the past as well, like statistics things. Like you give an array to TypeScript and you say what's the most common number. So yeah, it's really fun to do this because it's actually
Gabriel, go back. I like it better when you were being like a very like a troll, because I think we're going to attract more people with controversial statements. You're trying now you're like on the down slope. Now everything is agreeable. I don't like this anymore.
Exactly. Sorry. But like I love TypeScript, but I've studied so much of it and I've done so many things that I've reached in that point. I'm like, I'm gonna be honest, and this is a thing that I normally say to people. Sometimes you don't need TypeScript. Like your library should be on TypeScript, or it shouldn't. Like for many cases, it shouldn't be. It should be a tool, it's not like a silver bullet. So that's my controversial take. And sometimes you don't even JavaScript, and that's my even more controversial take.
So having looked so deeply at TypeScript and doing things, other projects with it, did that have an influence as to why Meteor adopted TypeScript, or was that something that Ben Newman started at first and it was in the code base, and then we said it's a good idea, we should continue with it? Like how did TypeScript get into the Meteor code base?
So, I'm not sure.
I can give a history lesson on this one.
So, I would say I would ask because I don't know the history.
This was when just shortly, pretty much after MDGs moved to Apollo, and Ben Newman was pretty much the only one working on Meteor. There was a time where I'm not exactly sure what was the plan there, but they had a meetup in San Francisco, I believe. And one of the things they announced there, of course, was the TypeScript and TypeScript transition for Meteor internals. So they started working on and tried to encourage everybody to work on, transitioning the core or the internals of Meteor, like the build system, all that stuff, to TypeScript. You can find the tags, I think it's the TypeScript transition or TypeScript project in the Meteor GitHub repository as well. So it was like one file at a time. And that was for, as Gabriel, as you said, places where I think TypeScript is a must, which is, for libraries and complex systems like Meteor, so that you get the, at the very least, type, hinting and type checking before you run the code. So Meteor internals. So it's because a lot of the Meteor internals are not well documented. So in this case, adding TypeScript definitions or moving to TypeScript really helps. People who come in afterwards to kind of get a good bearing, or at least write and know what to send to what functions, or what to expect back from a function. So that's how it got started in the entire thing.
Okay,
But
so this isn't Gabriel's project that he's, you know what, this is cool, we're gonna go all the way with this. We can't throw that all on him.
It's much older.
I have to make one more critique, and that was actually just came up because of what Jan said, that it's a good thing to have it in the code base. So if someone wants to contribute, they can use the types and then browse through, find the source. Here's one thing I realized, or I found very often when I'm looking on GitHub for several repos, evaluating if that's a thing I could use or not. Many of the TypeScript repos lack documentation a lot, and I think it's because people think, because it's expressive and it's all there, the code talks from itself, so they don't have the need to document it anymore. And this is something that annoys me a lot, because I think that's a misconception that people have as well. Right? So using TypeScript doesn't mean that you can just throw away your documentation or something like this. I think you still need that, especially when it comes to a project like Meteor, where you have to understand internals, and especially why something has been written in a certain way.
Right.
That's for me mostly the important thing, because understanding how it works, of course, it just takes time, and then. But this why did somebody chose this design over another? This is still
the context matters,
important, even with TypeScript.
It's there's an argument that developers have made over time, which really annoys me too, which is when they say my code is self-documenting. Well, every time I've ever run into a developer that says that, it's like it's only for his own code and it's for himself. And when somebody else has to come and maintain it and read it, it's not self-documented at all. It's a chore. It's a translation you have to do, right? It's like you find these Mayan ruins and these Mayan papyrus or whatever it might be, or runes, and you are like stuck there now trying to figure out exactly what it is and why it is, and it's nonsense. So I do think that that having actually having types in a language that really allows you to do anything you want does help you understand better what it is, the intention of those variables, right? Because if your variables are not well named, then that's going to be a problem. But there's so many other complications that come with it. In any case, what I do want to say though is that this exciting portion of discussion and the comments that have been made in the chat going back and forth is really the kind of thing that hopefully will encourage people to subscribe to the channel. So I want people to, consider that if you are finding this, useful or entertaining in the least, please hit the subscribe button, and it'll get you a notification whenever we have a new episode that comes in. And on top of that, it also lets YouTube know that people find this to be good content, and it'll help promote it. So please, if you can, click the subscribe to the channel button. I don't know what you guys are laughing at. There must be a conversation going on someplace else that I'm missing right now.
That's already beyond comprehension.
I kind of want to maybe to close this down. From Lori again of the Vikan team. Would it be possible to document Meteor internals or remove undocumented code from Meteor internals? So that's more towards Gabriel.
Okay, so we're not answering the Indiana Jones questions that are showing up.
I felt like Indiana Jones when I started, and up to today, sometimes I bump into a code that I'm like, I don't seen it to you, when you are in a maze and you always turn right and someday you turn left and you're like, I've never been to this place, and this happens a lot, and it's not documented. It's just me and me to solve the problem and to understand what's going on there. But we are trying to document as possible, whenever we can. And I'm trying to do this, now I'm working as an advocate, and one of the things that I'm trying to do is write more about what do we have on Meteor and what do we have like in the internals. So like in the way I did the new docs, and they're actually almost ready and you can start using them. There's some edge cases here and there. I'm trying to check like, yeah, this part isn't like way it's supposed to be, or like the current implementation of this function doesn't match the JS doc. Because we at Meteor, and for those that don't, we use JS docs for generating our docs. Like our docs are like one-to-one with our JS docs that we use for our functions. So that's nice because whenever someone changes their JavaScript function, their JavaScript API in Meteor here in the internals, it should be at the same time they change their JS doc, and it should match the docs at the same time. It should be coming out all at once. And so there are fewer cases of people like changing an API and later documenting it. Everything happens at once. But yeah, sometimes this doesn't happen, and we got some cases that we need to like address it. And so it would be possible to document many things, but there are some spaces that we need to like, I guess I would be fine rewriting it rather than documenting it, because it's either a way to solve it that's for me so incomprehensible, not because it's hard or it's different, but because I don't have the skills to comprehend it, or because I learned in a different way. And so for me, I would like rewrite it and then document it, or like if I try to document it, I might do it wrong. So there's some pieces that are going to be left as they is. So that's sad, but that's how it works. But I guess for many places, I would try to document, and I'm trying to do as we go. Like whenever somebody has a doubt on something, I try to check the API and how it's being written. And sometimes I find like places that should be documented, because when I did some updates, I would like, I think I needed this more context here, and now I can bring this context.
Well, so we appreciate the fact that you're spending the time and the effort doing that, because it's, it is super important. I think we've spent a ton of time on the news. This is, and we have a different section. So we invited Gabriel to join us today because we're talking about type safety and so on, and also because we want to get like the inside dirt of how things are handled in Meteor. But Gabriel and I had a little discussion on the side also about not just the parameters that you pass and the variables that you use that lack type safety, but one of the other things that comes back is when you run a function and you have a return value. I mean, how do we know that that's the right thing? And so I wanted to talk a little bit about JavaScript return types. And I figured we'd let Gabriel give us a little bit of a background on this. And for the people that are relatively new to JavaScript, how does JavaScript behave with functions and how do things work? And I'm going to turn it over to Gabriel so that he can pick it up from there. Professor, can you enlighten us?
Sure. Yeah, I love this part, and I'm showing my screen, so I guess everyone, if I can go stage. I guess you can see my screen. Let me zoom in, because then you can see it better. Let's do one more. Yeah, now I think it's perfect. Well, let me clear my terminal. And I have this I just did a TSC init. I just created this TypeScript project, and I created my this really hello world kind of thing. And the first thing I'm gonna teach you guys, and this is before even we start with JavaScript, because this node doesn't run. I cannot do node hello.ts. It will cry, because what is TypeScript? And so we need to compile this. So this is the first part that I don't like about TypeScript that much, is that I need to build it. It needs to be built. I've altered this config to generate a good JavaScript, a readable JavaScript. So it aims to, but if you choose another version of JavaScript, it goes really crazy. And so I'm gonna do hello.js. It will generate a hello.js. This normally people don't commit, but you can. I have libraries and packages that I do commit this, because I think it's even more easier to people to understand what's going on in JavaScript than in TypeScript. And now we can do the node, and it will. Whoops. Oh, whoops. I did JS. Now it's free. Now it should supposedly work. So now let's stop. Now that we are like, we have our environment running, and then we can start talking about like JavaScript and how it works. It's basically, this is the most common function, and we can have even easier functions. Like we have like just like a say hello function, and let's say function say hello, and it will return hello, and then we can just like ask for our console log to say hello. And oops, doesn't work. This will work, and now we can run again, and let's say hello. This is like the most simple function, and it works like the easiest way to think how functions work. It has like a header with parameters has its name, has its parameters, and has this funny thing called return. And this funny thing called return is what it will give you at the end. So imagine it as a box, and this is how I learned function at the beginning. I imagine it as a box, and whenever you call or get this box or unwrap this box, you get something in it's like the way you unwrap it, you get it something in it. So let's say I say just open this box that doesn't have any parameters, so I just unwrap it as it is, and now you get a hello. But if I try to open or use this box, this magical box that asks me to put two things on it and will return something of it, that's the easiest way to understand a function. Is a box, is a magical box that sometimes can take parameters, things in it, and it will return eventually something to you. So this is how JavaScript function it works in general. And now we're going to be talking about the return types. This is the thing that Alim and I were talking about, because there is this whole discussion on Twitter if we should or not have return types. It should be inferred like this. It's being inferred by TypeScript, and TypeScript gives a good job, similar to what OCaml, that's another language, does to inferring types. And even in my IDE, it looks the same as I did this, like the number here. If I just remove here, and it will work for me. It will show the number here, so it's really good. You can have like infer types working as I had written them. But what is the problem with return types? Sometimes they aren't correct. Sometimes in this case they don't, but sometimes they return just an object. Okay, that's really nice. And they return an object that says it's A, B it's B, and it will do like this. But sometimes I wanted to say that this type would return, and I'm not sure, some result. That's another type that's like this. So if I say it returns some result, now it's going to be easier to the person to understand it. Because even though some result is an alias, as I mentioned before, it's an alias, is another name for this structure here. It's easier for the other developer to understand what it is. So for many people, having return types is really nice. Knowing what the return type and then having a name to it. You can search and, what this really strange function does. This now it's easy to see it is a number and adds two things and returns a sum result. But it could be some strange name, and then what it does, I'm not sure, but someone in the past used this, and it returns this thing called sum result. And what is this sum result? If I call it like this, const like this, some strange 1 and 2, it will give me this sum result. But if I do like this dot something, it will give me some properties, and I can work with it. I can understand what is going on. And I'm not sure how to do this in my IDE. I'm not using other IDEs. It gives you exactly what's going on here. If you don't infer it, it will just give you the shape as it is, and it's good. But sometimes it lacks, like as I said, lacks naming, it lacks easiness to read. So this is a problem that can occur with your inferred typings or not. And other things, like it slows down a bit your TypeScript server. Like if you don't use no return types, you don't do your return, it will slow down because your TypeScript server has to infer things. And if you do add some result and every other place, it will make your TypeScript server a little bit faster. I wouldn't say it's going to be like a huge improvement, but it won't like slow you down as it would if inferring a lot of the
I
times.
would maybe add here one more argument to have the return type, especially like you have here, because then you can export it, and especially if you need to reuse the same type, for example, in a React component that you have properties being passed down or afterwards, then you can make sure then, for example, if I then pass in the result of this function to a component down the line, I can then add it to the props that it should be the some result type. So that way, and then can check, okay, it's the same type, so it's fine to have that.
Yeah, exactly. And if we compiled our code and we look at it as compiled, it's like doesn't make any sense. Like it doesn't give you types, doesn't give you anything, right? But here, because it strips down all types, and here it gives you like some kind of knowledge or some kind of like context about what is going on here. The another thing that we can do here is like we can have and this is a thing that I've read recently, and this is a thing that check does under the hood. It's called check. It's a check function. So I can do like const is string, or function rather, function is string, and I get a value, and value is a string. So this is the most simple, and this is what actually happens in our check package in its TypeScript level. It says like if value passes from here, or it returns, this function actually returns a boolean, because returns the return type of, if the type of value is equal to string, it returns true or false. So if I do like this, I can do like if a is a string, and I am in this context now, I'm sure that I'm inside of the here. This is never actually. Oops, this is never, because this is our string. If we do like this, now we are sure that A is a string. And so this is what it is a guardrail, or like a checking mechanism that you can use. It's gonna be expensive for you as a developer. Why I say that? Because you're gonna have a lot of ifs, and this costs some loops in your CPU. This is gonna be costly, because sometimes this isn't never gonna be a number, or this is never gonna be a string, but you're verifying every now and then, and you can have even bigger verifications, but they cost you more. You can check for the whole structure thing to make sure to the continuation of your program that this type is actually what it says to be. But so I like this. I really like this, how this works, but sometimes this isn't what you're not supposed to do, but this isn't like really optimal. So you can use like check, or you can use SOD, so that you don't need to be writing this a lot. So what we can do to make sure, and I found that Kelly said the return type of function name is really good. Yeah, I agree as well. The return type is a really good option as well, to use the return type of your function. What we can use so that we are always sure that our return type and our we don't need to use, we can check this, like we can say that this is any as well, like we can do like any, and this will work because this was a string now, and here it's any, but I can do like, if it's like this, I can return like this, and it will take what not included the file. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on, but yeah, we can solve this like issue with our let me get back. We can solve our issue with having any and not knowing what's going on, like in the types of our function, are actually just inferring everything. We could do like this. We can get away with this just by, one of the things that we can use is use another library. Like this is what I would say for like the beginning of the conversation, because then you don't have to write every function that verifies if a value is another by hand. And actually you should be having of these functions, because I know for testing purposes, it's nice to have just using values as it is, like JavaScript would. But if you're trying to write a production app that needs to be sure about what the data they're inserting the database, I think it's necessary that you use this defensive approach of using Zod or something like check in Meteor or Zod in other places to check their values and what they are returning. Because you can use this as well with Zod. You can say that the return function or infer the return value of this function. It's a Zod value. So yes, what this we can do, the most effective way I would say is to, if you're using Meteor, add check and try to check your functions. Try to add return values, because then it gives more context to the other users and it's easier. You can do with other ways to, as we mentioned, we can use the return type and so on. And yeah, many things we can make our JavaScript a little bit less painful, and if everyone does their part, things go fine. And well, we have a lot of the last topic I was hopefully to talk about is what the ECMAScript community can do. And I'm not sure if they want to do any things like ECMAScript. I mean, like the whole broader community. I'm not sure if like this is a pain point for many people, but I'm not sure if people would like to change JavaScript for this, because again, there are a lot of JavaScript things running around the world and people rely on it. And if we change JavaScript and how it works internally, it can break, and people don't want it to break the web. So I guess what we can do is hopefully get the TypeScript or type inference like they are trying to push on JavaScript, and this is what it can get, the most people can get. And for those that are using in JavaScript land, just JavaScript, you can have some typings. So I'm gonna just show it to you guys. We can do like this, and we can have like JavaScript, like we can have some kind of safety or some kind of usage to be good. It's not gonna say that's wrong, because I said it's gonna be a string, but I'm using number. It's never gonna be saying that this is incorrect. But what you can do is you can always verify. Like you can always do like function is a string, and do what I did before, and it won't change how you're going to be using the code, but it will verify in runtime. And I think for me, like the best part is verifying the runtime, so making sure that your end user doesn't have like a bad experience if something goes wrong. So so that's my point here. So for existing code bases, I would say like this: try to verify your code, try to have some runtime safety, and I guess that's it. That's it for today's lesson. So I hope everyone got as excited as I got talking about TypeScript, because it's a really nice tool. But again, it's a tool. It's not a silver bullet. It's not gonna solve all your bugs, but it can help reduce your bugs. So keep an eye on it. And thanks
while you were pontificating on the benefits of using TypeScript here and so on, I was reminded very briefly that the two most popular languages typically are Python and JavaScript, and both languages are not type safe. Like there is no type safety in Python either, So I was just remembering that for a minute as we're going through this, and Python is just as old, if not a little older than JavaScript, and so although I feel that that there should be, if you remember, there was a point where you could just declare your variables. You don't even declare your variables. You just instantiate your variables, and they were there, and you didn't have to put var, you didn't have to put let, you didn't have to put const in front of it. You remember that? And then they had this strict command line directive that you could add to it, so that you could enforce like going back in and making sure that you had var or you had let in front of your variables. And I thought, if they were to do something like, say, include typing of some kind, like as an optional feature within the language itself, that in order to like not break things, you might have to like put like that directive. So the thing is, like, old code would still work, but if you had that directive on it, the strict directive, then everything would have to adhere to or conform to type safe behavior. And then the compiler would say, oh, okay, this this code is supposed to be properly decorated all the way through, right? And so I expect it to be a certain way. And so when the lexical parser takes a look at it, it's going to say, oh, yes, it needs to have, these specifications in front of it that these are supposed to be typed. So that's one way I think it could be done. But as I was thinking about it, I was also remembering that Python is also not a type-safe language, and I don't know if people complain about it as much as I'm complaining about JavaScript. But that's
Yeah, look what are they doing, right? Like people at Python are just focusing on like creating their things, and
yeah,
I don't think they're like discussing this that much of like they're just focusing on building things, not to discussing it. And I guess things are like growing in our hand, like they're creating this whole machine learning thing and AI systems, and I don't think they have even a single line verifying if it's a number or a string, right? So
no, I don't think so. But
yes,
they
and
do
with that,
have a lot of really great libraries for doing things like that, though. So there is a very robust ecosystem. If you want to have better checking, you can. So there is that.
All right. And with that, let us know in the comments and in the chat, what do you think? What maybe some of the other resources that you might want to look, how other people look at. And we'll be moving off to some useful resources that we want to share with you. I'll start with listing some of the upcoming JavaScript or programmatic conferences that we think are interesting. And the closest one being on February 28th is JS World Conference in Amsterdam, Netherlands. Following that, on March 7, we have Open Source Day in Florence, Italy. Then on March 8 in Washington, D.C., Frontrunners 2024. I guess that's all about front end. On March 14 to 15 in Barcelona, Spain, we have WASM.io. And on March 18 to 21st, we have NG Conference in Salt Lake City. Are you going to that one, Alim, in the end?
I don't do anything with Angular, so no.
That was the other one that we have in the Salt Lake
It's
City.
the other one that's yes, that where the CFPs are.
Then in Munich, Germany, we have JavaScript Days on March 18 to 21st. And that's also available online. We have also Web Dev Day, which one is completely online, on March 20th. FastDev Krakow JavaScript Conference, as the name suggests, in Krakow on March 22nd. And finally, for March, we have React Paris also on March 22nd. So that's for the upcoming conferences.
They really know how to split the people between Paris and Krakow, don't they? Okay. I think Küster is calling people for papers, right?
Yes, so call for paper dates I'm announcing now are not the dates of the conferences, but the deadlines until you can submit a paper. And even if these are big conferences and you might think, oh my God, am I even good enough for that? There is never something you should consider you not being good enough for it. You need to try it out. And the first one is JSConf in Ireland. It's pretty big in Europe, definitely. It's the deadline is 29th of February, so just a few days left. The next big ones are at the same day. It's JS Nation and React Summit, both in Amsterdam, huge conferences, and both CFP deadlines are on the 3rd of March. So especially if you have something very interesting to share regarding React, then this should be something you should consider. There is the DevOps Con.
I think Scott Tolinsky is going to be at one of those, right?
Yeah, he's attending the JS Nation, I think. And
yeah.
And the next one is in April. The deadline is on 1st of April on of DevOpsCon in Berlin. And then there is a local one in the US in Sandy, Utah. I love city names that basically are names of a person. And and it's on the 3rd of April.
And that's the one, right? That's the one I committed to doing the paper on, and
Cool.
trying to get a chance to go and speak and talk about the revival of Meteor in 3.0.
And I mean, Alim, so just for our audience, that's it, this is something we may cover in the future. Your process of submitting a paper there, and like, what was the process? How was it? How did they respond? Did you had any revisions? Did you had to rewrite something, and so on? And so people can see it's not a big thing. It looks like there is this wall of conference and big important people, but in the end, I mean, it's people like you and me. They started submitting to a conference at some day, and then they got sometimes rejected. Even big people get rejected from conference. Trust me.
Sure.
It's not just the big name that gets you accepted on the conference. You still need to have a good topic to talk about.
Yeah, I like this kind of discussion, and as well, like I have this motto of thought is like, I am driven by when you submit a paper, I write I call it deadline. I think it's called in Portuguese like deadline driven development. You're like, I'm driven by the deadline of the call for paper, not the call for papers, but the day of the talk, So that's really funny, because we do like a lot of people here that you just submit the topic that you want to talk about, and they approve it, and then you go like, yeah, now I need to write the slides for it, and then you understand the theme. So sometimes you can just like submit a topic that you want to talk about it, and you don't even have the slides. You haven't even thought of studying it, and then you can go like there. Some topics doesn't happen this, but some topics are like, I'm learning this kind of thing. You can do this, and I recommend to everybody, like, I wanted to learn about, I don't know, machine learning, DevOps. I don't know anything about it. You can just like, yeah, I'm gonna write a call for paper. Writing about learning this kind of thing, and there are people that are willing to watch this, because there are people that wants to learn this topic and would like to learn a person that's learning, and so it's really nice.
That's actually not a bad idea, because because there is this fundamental change in how we handle async behavior in Meteor, you are in a sense relearning Meteor, right? And so if you came to Meteor like 7 years ago, and now you come today with 3.0, it's going to be a very, very different learning experience. And it may be, this is a good thought. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, you can say like, can do like, I'm trying Meteor. Should I try Meteor this year? Like this kind of like topics that you can write and talk about it, and you don't need it to be like, a core maintainer of Meteor. You can be a person that's interested in learning Meteor, and you can talk about it, because again, it's your perspective. Talks and this call for papers are normally about your perspective, the person that it's talking to. So
there's a nice comment from Kelly right now. If you don't get your paper accepted, turn it into YouTube content or into a blog content or something else. And that's so true. I mean, it's not wasted work. If they don't accept your paper, it just means your stuff doesn't fit the format of the conference, or sometimes they are just overfull. Right? They have like thousands of submissions, but true, it's not a waste. You can turn it into something else.
Exactly. I mean, we'll if you have a paper and it's Meteor related, and you want to do the talk in front of Zoom or something, and then bring it here, and we will put it up.
Yeah,
so everybody gets the benefit of it. Also, that's the thing, is we're sharing what we know. Right, and it's a great thing to be able to do. Gabrielle, you're supposed to tell the people something.
Yeah, like if you're watching now this content and you're loving it, because I think everybody's loving it, you should subscribe to us. Like, subscribe to this channel now, right now. Go there, open. If you're in full screen, go outside of the full screen. I'm not sure if there's like a quick subscribe button. Go I know you're watching now. Go there and subscribe. I think it's down here. And I know, and I love that you subscribed. And so I'm gonna give you 3 claps. So if you're in full mic, stop the mic. I will clapping for you. And thank you for subscribing. And yeah, all I do is for entertainment, and I hope everyone is loving this. But
yeah, that's great.
Subscribe.
That's great. We love having Gabriel on also. So anyway, listen, I want to give a shout out really quickly to all the folks that are in the chat and have been coming to us week after week. You know, I'm talking about guys like Per and Min and Kelly and Lori. I've seen John Morrow come quite a few times now to the chat. So thank you guys for showing up and being here. It really means the world to us that we can have this conversation with you, and really kind of hear what's important to you. And I like these exchanges, even when Gabriel is starting to troll a little bit. It really pushes everybody to speak and to give their opinions. Camilla, we like having you also from the Meteor team coming in and and letting us know that the Meteor team still thinks of us. We have Gabrielle from the Meteor team, so that's a good thing. It's a good sign. So we're really thrilled about that. So again, thank you all. We're do this because we think that we're trying to do something beneficial for you and share this feeling that we have for Meteor and the value that it gives to us, and hope that we're able to get more and more people to use it and like it the same way we do, and really get a productive benefit from it. So I'm not going to speak too much more because I feel like I'm stepping on my mouth again. The reason I recorded things also was because every episode I step on my tongue. And I was thinking to myself, this time I will have a recording and I will edit out all the bad parts, and then I will be like so smooth. Yeah. But that's not the reality.
Guys, I will make a poll next time, and to see, especially if we have lots of people in the live chat, if everybody agrees on making a outtake short from Alim, like the best.
Speaking of which, I just want to remind everyone that we have put out a single short so far. We have a couple more in the works right now. I'll probably have something out either later tonight or tomorrow that will go out. I know that Jan has been working on some concepts, and we will be seeing hopefully a stream of shorts. But one of the things I wanted to remind you of is you can go to any of our videos and you can make your own shorts out of them. We have enabled remixing on our videos. So if you find bits of it that you think would make a really great short, go ahead and do so, and then let us know about it, and we'll might bring you onto the program so that you could tell us about it, or we could just just let people know that you've done this. If you want people to know, we'd be happy to do so. So, yes, so give that a shot if you can, and we will make shorts. You can make shorts. If you don't have anything to make a short with, you can make it with our stuff. And I also want to point out, by the way, that what we're working with today is we're working with open source software. Even Meteor itself is open source. Even though there's a company behind it, it is still open source software. You could download it. You can read the source code. You could play with it. You could fork it. You could do a lot of different things with it. And a lot of the ecosystem is built with the packages that people make. Guys like the Jans, who have been writing and building packages, but also maintaining packages that others have written that they've now long gone and moved on. And I want to point out that it's really important that we think about sponsoring open source developers, because they do it on their dime and their time, right? And a lot of times you're working, and if you don't have the motivation because you don't know whether or not people really appreciate it, it sort of feels a little lonely. And sometimes you wonder why you're doing the work you're doing. So if you feel that you appreciate any of the folks that are working on the open source, and not just the two Jans, we have, for the Jan brothers, we have GitHub sponsorship pages, but other open source developers that are working on Meteor also have open source, sponsorship pages, and you might want to go and show your appreciation to them. So please do when you get a chance. And Gabrielle, I think you also have a GitHub sponsorship page too, correct?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Yeah, I have one. I think we can send out all our sponsor pages in the chat. Let me send you here the chat here.
Sure.
And yeah, we can share around. If you don't have the opportunity, or you think you don't have the opportunity now to give us anything, or don't think we should earn anything, you can share with your friends or with everyone in the community. And yeah, maybe someone can sponsor us, because sometimes we do things outside of our job to help the community. So yeah, think about it. We are always here. We are always here helping. So think about us. And yeah.
So anyway, let's that is its thing. And I just want to remind people about this, because it gets forgotten and we take it for granted that we have this fabulous software that we all use and we benefit from. And sometimes maybe people think it just appears by magic, but it doesn't. People actually work on it. And so it's good to encourage people to continue by showing appreciation. And if you liked any of our spicy takes today, I'd like to remind you that we did our first Hot Topic episode on where Meteor was going next. So if you get a chance, go back to our playlists, and there is a Hot Topics playlist, and you can watch it. I'd encourage you to do that. And with that, let me see. Hang on a second. I don't have the link here. Do you have? Okay, well, it doesn't matter. But you go to the if you're watching this right now and you're at the YouTube site, then you can find the playlist right there. It's just called Hot Topics. All right. And when you do that, when you watch it, when you watch any of the videos, leave a comment. Tell us what you think. Tell us your thoughts about what we talk about. We're not always right. Although, if that's the way you want to think about it, well, I'm happy to be your friend. But, you may have an opinion, you may have a thought, you may have a perspective that will really open our eyes to some other way of thinking. And so we love having that conversation with you. Today, we've had a very long conversation with the folks in the chat. Really grateful to have them. Coming up next week is our data episode. And unless you guys have something else to add, I am going to call it a day. And have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend. If your guys in your time zones are still up to live streams, I'll be live again in 1 hour or so. And so we're doing the educational part of Meteor. So that's it. If you guys want to see me, search on our socials, we'll be there. And yeah, nice to have you all. And thank us again for you guys for having me here. I love being the Meteor this week in MeteorJS. I love the podcast. I love everything. So thank you a lot. Great. And thank you all again that are watching this week. And so hope to see you guys soon.
Take care, guys. Bye.
See you.